Welcome to this Erasmus Plus YouTube video for Key Action 2 Youth Strategic Partnerships. This step-by-step guidance video is to help UK organisations complete the 2017 Erasmus Plus Key Action 2 Strategic Partnership form. This will be for organisations that are considering applying for funding for strategic partnerships for youth, and it should be listened to in accordance with the 2017 programme guide. Under the Erasmus Plus programme, youth organisations can work with other organisations to help improve youth provision across Europe. For example, they can work with enterprises, social partners and local or regional authorities to deliver high-quality projects which are relevant to national and European markets. This video will be an introduction to completing the Erasmus Plus Key Action 2 application form. In this session, we'll talk about where to find the application form, the deadline and the application process, and completing the application form itself. So the application can be found online via the Erasmus Plus website. It's an electronic form that will need to be filled in on your computer, and it will need to be submitted by the deadline. For Erasmus Plus Youth, there are 3 funding deadlines throughout 2017. The first deadline will be on the 2nd of February 2017. Applications should be submitted by 11 AM UK time. Before you start completing the application form, you will need to make sure that you have registered with the European Commission portal system. You will need to register on EU login. You will need to create a personal account, and then you will need to log in to the European Commission participant portal and register your organisation. Once you have registered your organisation, you will receive a unique participation identification code. This is commonly known as the PIC code or PIC number, and you will need to input this special number when you start completing the online form. When registering for a PIC number, please check that your organisation is eligible for Erasmus Plus funding. Details of eligibility can be found in the 2017 programme guide and also with the UK National Agency's Guide for Applicants. Please note that both the applicant organisation and any partners that are involved in the project must have registered on the portal and obtained a unique PIC number. Once you have obtained your unique PIC number, you will be able to access the 2017 application form. To find the application form, please go to the Erasmus Plus website, erasmusplus.org.uk. Click on the menu on the left-hand side. Hover over Apply for Funding. Then hover over Youth Funding. And for strategic partnerships, you will then need to click Apply for Partnership Funding. Once this page is opened, you'll need to scroll halfway down the page, and on the right hand side under Application Form, this is where you can download the eForm. So now we will go through the application form step by step. We'd highly recommend you to download the application form, save a copy for your own records, and you can then go back in and fill it, start to fill in the information as and when you like. So it is compulsory to use this electronic form, which is a PDF file, and it will need to be opened using Adobe Reader. So please make sure that you have Adobe Reader, which will be able to then open this application form. Once you've saved the form locally to your PC, you do not have to be connected to the internet to enter information into the form. The form can be saved and closed at any moment without losing the data. However, you will need to be online to access some of the online features that calculate budget amounts, and you will need to be online when you submit the form. Please note that there are a maximum character limits for some narrative questions, and these will take up to 5,000 characters. And we highly recommend that you save your application as you go along. So what I'm going to do is go through the application form section by section. So please make sure that you do open and start to fill in the correct application form. At the top of the page there, it should say KA2, Key Action 2, Cooperation for Innovation and the Exchange of Good Practices, and underneath KA205, Strategic Partnerships for Youth. Section A then will give general information about the form and some of the areas that you need to be aware of when completing the application form. Section B is context. This section will consist of a data table containing information specific to the application that you are going to make. Applicants should check that the pre-filled fields Key Action, Action, and Field correspond to the funding stream that they are applying for. Therefore, please make sure this information is correct. Under Key Action 2, there are two types of strategic partnerships that you can apply for. The first is strategic partnerships supporting the exchange of good practices. And the main objective of these projects is to allow organisations to develop and reinforce networks, increase their capacity to operate at a transnational level, and exchange ideas, practices, and methods. Depending on their objectives, projects may also develop tangible outputs and are still expected to disseminate the results of their activities in a way that is proportionate to the aims and scope of the project. The second type of strategic partnership are strategic partnerships developing innovation. And these projects are expected to develop innovative outputs and undertake intensive dissemination and exploitation activities. Under strategic partnerships that support innovation, you can request specific funding for intellectual outputs and multiplier events. And I will talk about these in more detail later. It is therefore important to give careful consideration before applying to the type of strategic partnership that is best suited to your objectives and the experience and capacity of your partnership. To be funded, all strategic partnerships must address either at least one horizontal priority, or B, at least one specific priority relevant to the field of youth. More information can be found from pages 120 to 123 of the Erasmus Plus Programme Guide. So in section B, you will need to choose which type of project you are going to do. So for main objective of the project, you can see there's development of innovation and exchange of practices. So if you are going to be producing intellectual outputs, then you would pick innovation. If you're concentrating on networking and improving the networks between organizations, you would choose exchange of practices. So for this example, I will choose development of innovation. Please check the call year is 2017 and that the round is round 1. So this will be for the February deadline. As you will be applying to the UK National Agency, please choose the language used to fill in the form, which will be English. B1 then is specific information about your project. So in project title, please type the title of the project. You can also give a project acronym underneath. And you will need to choose the project date. So when choosing a project date, please choose from the drop-down box on the right-hand side. This will then enable you to choose from the calendar. And the start date for the project can be from the 1st of June 2017 up until the 30th of September 2017. So for this example, I've chosen the 1st of July 2017. You will then need to choose the project duration. Strategic partnerships for youth can last between 6 and 36 months. So you will need to choose the number of months from the drop-down menu. So you must choose the duration of the project to include all activities, as any activities that are part of your project need to be completed between the project start and end date. Therefore, for this example, I'm going to choose a 2-year project, 24 months. And you can see that it will automatically calculate the project end date. B2 then will be National Agency of the Applicant Organisation. As you are applying to the UK, you will need to choose UK 01 from the drop-down menu. Section C then is priorities. So you will need to select the most relevant horizontal or sectoral priority according to the objectives of your project. And there you can see the horizontal priorities and also the youth priorities. As mentioned previously, there is more detail on these in the 2017 programme guide. So I will just choose the top priority from the drop-down list. And you are able to select up to 3 priorities. To add another, press the plus icon and simply choose again from the drop-down list. In the comment box, please comment on your choice of priorities. So please explain why you have selected the priorities above and how these link and impact on the youth field in particular. So let's move on to applicant organisation. Here you will need to enter the unique PIC number that you obtained before starting this application. So I can put in an example PIC here. Simply type the numbers into the box and you will need to press check PIC. You can then see that the organisation information is automatically added into the form. This information would have been input into the portal before when you registered as an organisation applying for Erasmus Plus funding. If any of this information within your PIC number does change, then please update it or please get in touch with us at the British Council. D.1.1 then is for the profile, so you will need to choose from the drop-down box and select the type of organisation that applies to you. D.1.2 then is background and experience, and this will inform the assessment of your organisation's capacity to manage the project and propose group grants successfully. So here you will need to present your organisation, include the aims of your organisation, its history, its location, and how the activities proposed in this application fit into other programs or activities that you do deliver. You should also comment on the activities and experience of your organisation in the areas relevant to this project. So please detail the organisation's previous experience of delivering projects or activities, and the number of staff in your organisation and how their skills and experience contribute to the project. Have you participated in a European Union granted project in the 3 years before this application? You can click on the drop-down box. It's a yes/no answer. If you do select yes, you then have space then to enter any previous applications here. We then move on to the legal representative, and you will need to enter the details of the person who is authorised to enter into a legally binding commitment on behalf of the organisation. So this may be one of the senior management team, and if your application is approved, this person will also be the signatory for the grant agreement and the person who takes on the terms and conditions attached to the grant. So please make sure that you fill in all the fields here. You then have contact person, so very similar to, the fields are very similar to the legal representative, but for the contact person, This will be the first point of contact for the application, someone who will be linked very closely to the project within the organisation. And we do recommend that the contact person is different to the legal representative. It then gives us two contact points there as well. So you'll want to complete those fields, and you then have the option to add up to 3 contact persons. So you can add additional contacts there by pressing Add Contact Person. You can then see we've got the fields are then repeated, so you can fill them in again. So we then move on to D2, partner organisations. Now, strategic partnerships in the youth field should have a minimum of 2 partners from 2 different programme countries. Partner organisations from any partner country in the world may participate in strategic partnerships. However, we would suggest looking at page 22 of the programme guide for further details. And it's very important to note that partner countries can be involved in a strategic partnership only if they will bring significant added value to the project, and you should ensure that such added value is clearly explained in the application. So if this condition is not fulfilled, the project will not be considered for selection. And please note, any partner organisations will also need to have a registered PIC number. So once you have added the PIC numbers of your partners, this information will automatically appear again from their previous registration. And you will need to complete the fields that are the same for the applicant. So you'll need to give information on the background and experience of the partner organisations. What are their previous activities? How will they be relevant to this application? And have they participated in any previous EU granted projects? And you should also include details of the legal representative and the contact person from that organisation. Then press Add Partner at the bottom of the page to add another partner. Also in D3 you have associated partners. If relevant, please identify and explain the involvement of associated partners that are not formally participating in the project. So please include how they would also contribute. So we then move on to section E, description of the project. There are some further narrative questions here to get more information about what you will be including in the project. We have more detailed information in the Erasmus Plus guide for applicants, and this can be found on the Youth Partnerships page of the Erasmus Plus website. So the first question, please explain the context and objectives of your project, as well as the needs and target groups. So what problems or gaps will the partner work to address? What needs will it develop for the organisations involved, the wider community, or the European Union? So please make sure that your points here are clear. If you're going to deliver a cross-sectoral strategic partnership with youth as its main focus, please make sure you make it clear in the different sections of the application form why you're taking that cross-sector approach. The second there, in what way is the project innovative or complementary to other projects? So show the relationship with any other projects that are ongoing, and show how it will change the practice in the organisations involved. How did you choose your project partners, and what experiences will they bring to the project? So why did you choose these partners? What skills, competencies and experience do the partners have? And you should demonstrate what relevant complementary experience the partners bring to ensure the project is delivered effectively. Are there any partners that are new to this type of project, and what added value will they bring? You'll then need to show how the tasks and responsibilities will be distributed among partners, and what are the most relevant topics addressed by your project. So this would be the drop-down list, and you can scroll through these and select the most relevant topics. You can also add further topics by pressing the plus icon and then selecting again. And then the question, what results are expected during the project and on its completion? And you will need to look at the results during the project. What have you produced, or the immediate changes you hope to achieve? For example, changes in individuals or organisations. Examples could include the integration of new practice into youth work, changes to the youth work curricula, changes to youth or education policy, new skills for young people. So these things can be included on this question. You might also need to consider impact, and you may look to include certain results, or you might want to link IT competency to a certain number of youth workers. Possibly that would then make them more employable, so you can talk about that here as well. Section E then is participants. So please describe how you will select and involve participants in the different activities of your project. So you should try to give detailed information about the selection process and how it will be fair in selecting the participants. You then have the question with participants with fewer opportunities. Does your project involve participants facing situations that make their participation more difficult? This is a yes/no question. So if the answer is yes, you'll then need to complete the additional information to explain the the difficulties that they might be facing. So for example, if I put 10 participants and you have a drop-down box for the types of situations that they are facing, more information about participants with fewer opportunities can be found on page 11 of the 2017 Programme Guide. How will you support these participants so that they are fully engaged in the planned activities? So reaching disadvantaged groups is a real focus of Erasmus+, and please note that in the context of Erasmus+, people with fewer opportunities are those facing a disadvantage because of personal difficulties or obstacles that limit or prevent them from taking part in such transnational projects. If an informal group of young people are applying, they can apply as a transnational youth initiative. If an informal group of young people does apply, then please specify if any of the young people that are going to design and deliver the project, if they have a background of fewer opportunities. So if the young people that do have fewer opportunities, if that is the case, the group should have a plan to support and ensure that they can participate fully in the project. For more information about transnational youth initiatives, please refer to the Key Action to Youth Strategic Partnership section in the Programme Guide. Section F then is preparation. Please describe what will be done in preparation by your organisation and the partners. So you'll really want to describe the preparatory work that you will undertake before the planned meetings. Please describe the process you've established for agreeing roles and responsibilities with partners to make sure there are quality outcomes as well as good administration and delivery of the project. You should also outline your planned meetings or other methods by which you will ensure regular communication with all your partners or stakeholders. Section G then is project management and implementation. So there are several questions here that look at some of the particular sections of the project planning. and implementation. You should consider the project activities and how you will carry out the support from the funding under project management and implementation. And you should also describe the methodology you intend to apply in your project. There is then the third question about transnational project meetings. How often do you plan to meet? Who will participate in the meetings? And where will they take place? More information on the various budget categories that you can apply for can be found in the 2017 Programme Guide from pages 120 to 138. So there will be more specific information on project management and implementation funding, for example, transnational project meetings, and some of the other budget categories that I will mention. Transnational project meetings are those meetings for staff to plan and coordinate project activities. You would need to be clear how all partners will communicate, how you will work together to deliver different activities throughout the project, and why these meetings are essential to the project. You will need to demonstrate that each meeting is needed and are cost effective as compared with other means of communication. So if you do intend to have transnational project meetings, you would then apply for a funding amount which is allocated per person and would usually cover travel for those meetings. You've then got several further questions on project management. How will you ensure proper budget control and time management? How will the progress, quality and achievement of project activities be monitored? So you can describe here qualitative and quantitative indicators that you will use and the staff that are going to be involved. Also touching on evaluation, how will you evaluate to which extent the project reached its results and objectives, and what indicators will you use to measure the quality of the project's results? And then what are your plans for handling risks which could happen during the project? So there are several things to consider here. Will you be looking to use any Erasmus Plus online platforms as well? We then move on to G1, intellectual outputs. Now, as in this example, I have chosen strategic partnership, innovation. Intellectual outputs are only available if you decide to run an innovation project. This should be the main objective of your project. Intellectual outputs are tangible outputs and they must be substantial in quality and quantity, with potential for wider use, dissemination and impact. So some examples would include youth curricula, maybe some new materials that you're looking to produce, open educational resources, IT tools, or peer learning methods. So dissemination plans or project evaluation reports, these are considered to be project management tools and they would not be classified as intellectual outputs. So if the intellectual outputs are going to be closely linked as your main objective, then you would include them in this application form. If you are going to do strategic partnership that focuses on best practice, you would not include intellectual outputs. But I will choose yes for this example. So I have to stress these are only for strategic partnerships focusing on innovation. And you will then need to go through and give detailed information about the intellectual outputs that you're going to produce, the dates, and also the languages, media, if applicable, and the activity leading organization. So you would have a list of partners from the drop-down box, and you should indicate who will be responsible for those. You can then click Add Output to add any further intellectual outputs underneath. G2 then is multiplier events. Now, multiplier events are linked to intellectual outputs, the previous section. So again, multiplier events will only apply if you are going to do a project that focuses on innovation. So that's very important. Intellectual outputs and multiplier events only apply for innovation projects. If you are doing exchange of good practices, then you will not have to complete this section. So I have chosen an innovation project. I have added my intellectual outputs. Do you plan to include multiplier events? Yes. And multiplier events are basically any events, maybe conferences, seminars, that showcase the innovation and intellectual outputs that you have produced. So they must be very closely linked with the intellectual outputs, and there is a real emphasis on visibility and dissemination of results in Erasmus+. The specific eligibility requirements for multiplier events funding can be found on page 132 of the Erasmus Plus guide. And again, you would need to give details of the event, where will the event take place, in which partner country, the dates of when it will take place, and you will then need to show, once you have added intellectual outputs, you will need to show which intellectual outputs are going to be linked to this event. We then move on to G3, learning, teaching, training activities. So within Key Action 2 youth projects, you can include some mobility activities within the youth project, provided that they are embedded with the broader activities and that they will bring added value in terms of supporting the achievement of the project activities. So the focus is not just on these mobility activities. They should be in addition and producing added value to the project as a whole. So, do you plan to include these? Yes. And then you would need to go through and add the details of each activity that you're going to add. For strategic partnerships in the field of youth, there are 3 mobility activities that you can add: a blended mobility of young people, long-term mobility of youth workers, and the third, short-term joint staff training events. So here is an example on the screen of one of the learning, teaching, training activities. Your application will benefit from a full description of all activities planned here, including the location, who will be delivering any training, who the participants will be, and what the training program will entail, and any support that will be given or practical arrangements that are in place. And we also recommend that you plan to comply with UK legislation and consider any relevant national legislation in the country of each partner. We would also advise checking the Foreign and Commonwealth Office and their travel advice to any countries that you will travel or send participants. And it should be clear how each activity adds value and contributes to the overall project objectives. Please note, for blended mobility of young people and long-term mobility of youth workers to or from partner countries, so these are countries, partner countries are those outside of the EU, are not eligible. For more information on what each activity is, please refer to page 291 in the 2017 programme guide. So on the screen you can see that I've entered the activity number, the activity type from the drop-down box. You'll also need to give a description and the number of participants. Please note, if you are doing a project, strategic partnership, exchange of good practice, please be aware the total number of participants, including accompanying person, is limited to 100. And this applies to learning, teaching, training activities only. This does not include transnational project meetings. You will also need to give details of any participants with special needs, and accompanying persons are those that will be supporting any participants with special needs. They are there to ensure the safety, protection and support of those during the mobility activity. You will then need to add the correct amount of days. Details in the programme guide give the minimum and maximum duration. And underneath, any practical information from the activities. So you can add as many activities as you are thinking of including before moving on to section H, which is follow-up. You will then need to give details of the impact on the participants, participating organisations, target groups and any stakeholders involved in the project. Erasmus Plus is an international programme, and so the impact should be shown at local, regional, national, European or international levels. So please be clear where the impact will be the strongest, and please give specific detail how your project will have the desired impact at the various levels. And how will you measure impact? You may choose to measure impact both within the period of receiving any funding if successful, and also beyond after the lifetime of the project. H2 then touches on dissemination, and dissemination means communicating the project successes and results as widely as possible. This is a very important focus within Erasmus Plus and ensures that project funds enable a wide group of people, organisations and communities to benefit. Results should be developed in such a way they can be adapted for use by others as widely as possible. This could include use in other sectors after the project has ended, or to influence policy. And you may want to include details of dissemination plans. So your plan should include measurable, realistic objectives, a timetable, resource planning, and involvement of target groups. The Erasmus Plus guide also makes it clear that all training and learning materials and media produced by Erasmus Plus projects should be made freely available to the public in digital form via open licenses. However, you are able to define the most appropriate level of open access to suit the nature of your project and the type of materials produced. So let's move on to H3, sustainability. This can be defined as the potential for continuation of the project's activities, outcomes, and impacts after Erasmus Plus has finished. Sustainability includes obtaining further funding, is not confined to obtaining further funding for activities, but can also refer to integration of results and innovation within the management of participating organisations. So please give details how you will do this, what resources you will use to assure sustainability. You may wish to look at your dissemination activities and any results listed in the previous section. Moving on to section I and the budget section. The Erasmus Plus grant is intended as a contribution to the project costs and may not cover the total cost of the project. When applying for a Key Action 2 project, you are eligible to receive funding for the following cost headings: based on unit costs, project management funding, transnational project meetings, intellectual outputs and multiplier events if you are going to do an innovation project, and finally learning, teaching and training activities if they apply to your project. So these categories are based on unit costs, based on per person rates. There are two further budget categories: exceptional costs and special needs support, and these are based on real or actual costs. So you would enter the actual amount of the goods or services there. Again, please refer to the 2017 programme guide from pages 120 to 138 for a full list of the budget amounts. So let's start with project management. A monthly grant is paid to each participating organisation, €500 per month to the coordinator and €250 to each of the other partners. So in this example, you can see we have a 24-month project. The applicant organisation has been awarded €18,000, requested in the application form. Once you have added the PIC numbers for each of your partners, they will automatically be added to this list. The maximum sum available for project management funding is €2,750 per month. There is no maximum number of partners. However, the budget for project management is capped at 10 partners. For transnational project meetings, grants are paid according to a unit cost per person that attends each meeting to cover travel and subsistence. So you will need to use the European Commission distance calculator. This can be found on the Erasmus Plus website and in the UK Guide for Applicants, and will be a one-off amount that will cover a return journey. So you will need to enter from the drop-down box, you will need to select each organisation that will be attending the meetings, the total number of meetings, and the total number of participants. So please note the total number, that will be the total number of participants that will attend all meetings. So only organisations that will be travelling to meetings are to be claimed under this section. Hosting organisation costs would be claimed under project management funding. If you are going to have intellectual outputs, because you are doing a strategic partnership for innovation, you would enter details of the intellectual output amounts here. Now, grants are paid per person per working day by country group. So it does depend on the country and the staff category. Details of this can be found from page 136 in the programme guide. For intellectual outputs, this will allocate a grant amount per day based on the number of working days that staff involved in the project will be spending creating these intellectual outputs. So for this example, you can see we've put in the organisation that will be involved. You will need to select the category of staff that will be involved, and also the number of working days. Please note that the roles of manager and administrative staff would normally be funded under project management funding. So if you do choose managers or administrative staff, you would need to be clear in the narrative why you've applied under intellectual outputs. If the type and volume of staff costs for the development of an intellectual output is not duly justified, these costs may be removed. We then move on to multiplier events, and these will be funded to cover events aimed at showcasing the intellectual output that you have produced in the project. Once again, multiplier event funding is only for innovation projects. Click on the plus icon and you would need to give details of the event that will showcase your output. Event identification, this will be pre-filled once you have completed the details of your various events. And then you'll need to state the number of local participants and number of foreign participants that might that will be taking part at the event. Please note, only participants from organisations other than the beneficiary organisations can be counted in the number of individuals for the purpose of determining the grant amount for multiplier events. Please see page 132 for multiplier event unit cost rates. The maximum sum available for multiplier events is €30,000 per project. Moving on to learning, teaching, training activities. You will then need to add the organisation details and the number of people that will be taking part. And you will need to choose, using the distance calculator, the distance to the country that the participants will be travelling to. Travel again is based per person, and it is a flat rate amount for a return journey. In addition to travel, the European Commission have introduced top-up funding for expensive domestic travel costs for 2017. So this funding is in place where domestic travel costs exceed €225 and must be fully justified within the application form. So you will be able to apply in this section for the participants that attend your mobility activities. You'll be able to apply for travel and individual support. And again, you can see there I've added 15 participants with a distance band, and it will then calculate the amount automatically in the application form. But if you have any queries about this whilst you're going through the budget section, please feel free to call us or email us and we can have a look at your form. Individual support, that is also available under Learning, Teaching, Training, and it refers to the day-to-day living costs incurred by participants during the mobility activity. So it would include accommodation, food, insurance, as well as local travel. And again, it's based on unit cost amounts, which are detailed on page 134 of the Erasmus Guide. So again, for every budget amount that you're going to add, you need to click on the plus icon. You need to give details of the organisation that will be involved in the activity and the number of participants. So please make sure that you check you have added travel and individual support for your relevant activity. Sometimes there are cases where people add travel and they forget to add individual support, but again, please check with us if you're unsure. You've then got exceptional costs for overseas countries and territories. I'm just going to mention this very quickly, but if you are going to involve a partner which is located in an overseas country and territory, there is additional funding that you can apply for here. Please consult the guide for applicants for more information. Point 6 is special needs support. If you click on the plus icon here, and you will need to give details of the number of participants with special needs, and you will need to write a full narrative description why you are applying for those costs. So a person with special needs is defined as a potential participant whose individual physical, mental, or health-related situation is such that his or her participation in the project would not be possible without this extra financial support. And then you have a free text box to enter the amount there. So this would be assessed if your grant was successful. This may be awarded in full. It may be reduced depending on what you're applying for. I.7 then is exceptional costs. You can then give details of any specific items under here. Erasmus Plus will fund up to 75% of costs relating to subcontracting or the purchase of goods and services. However, funding must only be requested for items which cannot be provided by the project partners. So you need to give clear justification what you're applying for. Examples of items that are not eligible under exceptional costs include visas for partners to travel, smartphones, multiplier event costs, training and dissemination activities, or office equipment which would normally be provided by the partners in the day-to-day running of the organisation. So multiplier event costs should be applied for under multiplier events. Training and dissemination activities, they would be included under project management funding. So once again, you'll need to give a full description and you'll then need to add the amount in the free text box. Section J is the project summary. Please provide a short summary of the project in English, and it should include the context, background of the project, the objectives, the profile of the participants, and also information on the activities and the expected results. J1 will then give you a summary of all the organisations that are involved in the project. J2 will give you the overall budget summary. Please make sure that you check that this is what you want to apply for. Please make sure that the funding amounts look correct. Otherwise, you'll need to go back to section I and just change any figures within the budget section. And J.2.1 will give you the total overall grant. So please be aware, if you are successful, the UK National Agency will be unable to award any more than you request. Section K is the checklist. So this gives you a detailed breakdown of what should have been completed within the application form, and also any documents that you need to attach to the form. Please read section L, the data protection notice. Before signing section M, which is the Declaration of Honour. This is your organisation statement that all information in the application is correct to the best of your knowledge, there is no conflict of interest, and you will take part in dissemination activities if required. The legal representative of the applicant organisation must print the Declaration of Honour, read it carefully, and you will then need to sign it. It should then be scanned and attached as an annex to this form. It is essential that you submit this document, otherwise it can make your application ineligible. So you can see here there's a print button there, so you'll need to print off the statement and then sign and scan. Section N, there is annexes, and here you will need to attach the relevant documents. You will need to attach the Declaration of Honour just mentioned. You will need to also attach a partner mandate. This was a mandate template which needs to be signed by each partner and signed by the partner and the applicant. More details of partner mandates can be found in the UK Guide for Applicants. The third document you will need to attach is the project timetable sheet. And this should give an overview of the activities that you will be running in your project, and it will give an indication of the timeline of your project. So please make sure you attach these three documents in section N. Section O then is submission. You will be able to click validate. There is a validate button at the end of each page in the application form. This basically checks that you've filled in all the relevant fields, that your budget information is correct, and also organisation information. If something is missing, it will come up with a warning message, and you will need to go to the relevant section and check that that has been entered correctly. When you are ready to submit, section 02 there is standard submission procedure. You will need to be online, and you will need to click submit online. Once you have done this, you will get a submission summary within the application form. We would ask you to save the application form and keep this summary for your records. We would advise that applicants print the final completed version of the electronic form and retain it for your own records. Once you have successfully submitted the application will then be carried out, and the assessment will then be carried out in 2 stages. A formal eligibility check will take place by the UK National Agency against the eligibility criteria published in the programme guide. Your application will then be assessed by external experts, which are selected by their experience and knowledge in the youth field. And funding decisions are made based on the quality score. You will need to look at the 4 areas that the application is assessed on, which are known as the award criteria, and more details can be found from page 120 in the Erasmus Plus programme guide. And just on this slide here, you can see some of the usual very useful programme guide page numbers. This will include all the information on strategic partnerships, the eligibility and award criteria, and the specific budget amounts. The Erasmus Plus team at the British Council are here to help with any queries you have regarding your Key Action 2 youth applications. The first deadline, just to repeat, is the 2nd of February, and we would advise you to get in touch well in advance of the deadline. You can contact us on our telephone number 0161 957 7755 or email erasmusplus.inquiries@britishcouncil.org. For further information on the application forms and other sectors within Erasmus Plus, please visit the website, and thank you for listening to this video today.